hello to you all in the chat stream. Hello, everyone. And hello to Coco, my co-pilot.
Hello, Mr.
Welcome aboard. So Coco, I think, yeah, keep me posted if anything comes through. I think some of the students will still, some of the regulars, we are trying something different this week. So don't be alarmed if things are different. We're just testing out a different platform, and there will be a chance to give feedback at the end of the lesson. But it's always good to try new things to see what is more effective, new strategies. And so the main thing, as I understand it, is that the students are getting sent a link, Coco, in their messaging. If you could just,
Yes, but I haven't got anyone here yet, so I think we're good.
Okay, so we'll just wait for a little bit. While you guys are doing these questions, I like to also work on my drawing skills, just to, keep things moving. And let's see if I can draw a different sport today. The other day I was trying to draw tennis. Let's see. Okay, so the students who are here already, if you could just apply yourself to, there's actually one question, and then there's actually a second question that's coming up in a moment. And it's just a bit of a warm up for the exam prep we're going to be doing today. So just to get our brains moving, today's main focus is paper 1, algebra. But we just want to get our brains warmed up. I'm warming up with a drawing thing here. So Coco, what do you think, what sport am I drawing today? Let's see. People at home, what sport do you think I am drawing on the board there? Can you hear me okay, Coco? I can't hear you.
Yeah, perfectly fine. No, I'm perfectly fine. I'm muted. I'm on both YouTube and Zoom.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Sure.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. I hope that you are with us now. Okay. And once you arrive, hey, welcome, Caleb. Hey, well done, Busisiwe. Rugby, indeed. Hey, Jovan is here. Welcome, guys. Let me just move some of my bits and pieces out the way so that I can see. Oh, everyone's here. Welcome. So welcome to Jovan, to Caleb, to Busisiwe, to Valerie. You guys are absolutely right. It is indeed rugby that I am trying to draw. And I think I drew tennis the other day, and I think I drew football. So I'm getting there. And because I'm in Cape Town, I support the Western, well, you used to be called Western Province. Now it's called the Stormers, I think. And that's my team. Okay, guys. So while we wait for a few people to arrive, I can see all my regulars are in the house. And if we could just let our friends know that things are up and running to come join us, I want you guys to apply yourself to this question. This comes out of the general algebra section of paper 1, and it's from a section called exponents. And I know that students traditionally find this a bit tricky. So I just want to get a bit of a sense of what you guys experience with this type of question. I'm actually going to put these 2 questions up. And something else I want you to be aware of is if you can't see the screen clearly, if you could just send me a chat, if you could send me a message in the chat so I can see what's going on. Okay. There we go. All right. So if you think about, I'll give you a little hint for this first one. If you think about this, oh, is everything still here? If you think about this question, what does this power of 6 actually do? I think it does something like this. It's saying repeat this thing 6 times, okay? And so the question then is, okay, well, what is being repeated 6 times? And we go from there. I see one answer is coming. So Caleb has put his answer down. I want to give it a moment or two more. Caleb, if you could please apply yourself to this next question over here. And then also, guys, give me a quick, I see some cool emojis coming through. How are you guys all feeling today? I'd love to get a sense of your mood. I did some exercise this morning. I went for a nice run. So I feel like the endorphins are with me today. You're going to get an extra special dose of a maths teacher today. So let's go here. Okay, so guys, what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat the x to the power of a half. And what does it get if we multiply all of these things 6 times? So one of the things about laws of exponents is if you have the same base, and each of these has the base of x, you can simply add the powers. And so what you're going to find is that the answer for this is going to be b, or x to the power of 3. And so the law that we often see, like we might see something like this, like 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 4, that's actually going to be the same as 2 to the power of 7, because we're adding up these powers here. And in the same way over here, another way of seeing this is if there's 2 powers next to each other. So I suppose that's actually not the perfect example, but if we do this, so if we have x to the power of 2 to the power of 3, what does that mean? It means x to the power of 2 times x to the power of 2 times x to the power of 2. And see, I've done it 3 times. And now if you add these up, or if you wrote them out in full, you'd get x to the power of 6. Now, what you can do as a shortcut is there's a rule that says if 2 powers are next to each other, you can simply multiply those 2 together. Okay. And so in theory, you could also go a half times 6, and then you get x to the power of 3. Give me a quick thumbs up or thumbs down or a happy face or unhappy face, depending on if that made sense to you. I just want to watch the chat and get a sense of how you guys are feeling. Did that explanation help a little bit? Students find that idea quite tricky at times. So I'm just going to watch the chat. And while I wait for that to come through, I want you to think about this question over here. Now, this is what's called an equation exponent question. And one of the problems we have is that the bases are not the same. Now, whenever we deal with exponents, having bases that are the same. So if we write an exponent like 3 to the power of 2 is 9, then this bit over here is the base. Actually, let me get this. This bit over here is the base, and this bit up here is the exponent. Now, in this question, if we're going to solve it, we need the bases to be the same, but they're not. So is that helpful? So cool. Okay, it seems, Coco, I know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing students said they felt helped by that explanation. Eric, welcome. I don't think I've welcomed you yet. And yeah, welcome to everyone else who's out there. Okay, I would like some comments. In fact, I'm going to actually send a poll out quickly. So this is question 2, and the options are going to be A, B, let's just add this on, C, and D. And I'm going to ask you guys, using the magic of YouTube, and I want you to try and answer this as best you can. And give me a thumbs up when you get the poll. I'll give you another hint for the question. I would start by making the 9 3 to the power of 2. And I would make the 27 3 to the power of 3. So that's my hint to get you going. Notice how I've made the bases the same, And now, at least if we're comparing two things, and we're trying to remember the goal of this question, what is the value of n? Now, n is hiding up here and up here. And maybe somebody can give us some tips. Okay, let's see what questions, what answers are coming in. Okay, so I'll give you some more hints. So what I said before is that if you have this over here, you're going to multiply them together. So you're going to get, I'm going to multiply 2, and I'm going to multiply it by 2n minus 1. And on this side, I'm going to get 3, and I'm going to multiply it by n plus 2. Notice how I'm putting the second things in a bracket. And then if I multiply these out, let's see if I can get a, no, let's get a different color. So 2 times 2n is 4n, and 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, and that's the one side. And then on this side, I'm going to get, oh, can you see? Okay, you can see me, 3n plus 6. Now, we're almost done. Okay, I see some stuff there. So now, can you see that the bases are the same, things are the same? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say 4n minus 2 is 3n plus 6. And then I'm going to take away 3n from both sides. So I'm going to get 4n minus 3n equals 6 plus 2, which means n is 8. Okay, which answer? Let's see. Hey guys, well done. I can see the poll results a little bit. Let me see if I can squeeze them up a little bit. Can you see the poll results? Oh, well done. We got 67% got D and 33% got B. So most of us got it right. If you got it wrong, it's not a problem. I'm so happy that you gave it a go. And I'm going to give you a chance later to have another go at these types of questions. So just to clarify, the answer was this one over here. And in fact, let's do one more question, because I know that this is actually, no, you know what, let's leave it for now. Let's move on. Okay, so what is the goal of us being together today? The goal of us being together is to help you prepare for your grade 11 exams. And in the previous lesson, I pointed out that all exams have a structure. And the first 2 lessons, we're going to focus on paper 1, and the second 2 lessons would spend more time on paper 2. Now, we spent our time thinking about algebra, expressions, equations, and inequalities. And today we're going to finish, well, we're basically going to move to the other really big section, which is functions and graphs. Now, it's not to say that you mustn't spend time with the other ones, but given limited resources, we should spend our time for the greatest benefit. Okay, so that's where I'm allocating the time for the rest of this lesson, after I've done this question over here. Now, another thing that I just want to bring up in terms of strategy, strategy kind of means like, you know, being clever about the way you do things, is all exams are set with this rough layout. And you should always be banking the marks for, let me zoom in a bit more. You should always be banking the marks for knowledge questions and routine procedures first. Once you've banked those, then you can go to the casino on these other ones. But when I do these exams, I'm going to show you what I mean by knowledge and routine procedures, okay? And you want to use that as a general strategy. Okay, so that's my little bit of teacher insider knowledge for the day. What I want now is I want to do the simultaneous equation question. And this is every exam I've ever seen for grade 11, paper 1, has about a 6-mark question on a simultaneous equation. So you can bank this knowledge. Before we do it, I would like some tips from the class. I want to know, what strategies do you guys know about for solving this thing called a simultaneous equation? And I'll zoom in nicely. I want to know what knowledge, what strategies do you have that you can use? Sorry for all the zooming, but I just want to make it nice and big. and I'm going to watch the chat. What have you heard in class? And then once I've seen what you guys think, I will then give you my input as a teacher. Okay. So if I look at these two equations, one of the things that strikes me is the one looks a lot scarier than the other. So which of these is scarier? Which of them looks easier? That's an important question. I think this one looks less scary, and this one looks a bit like, and so there's something in that, because the way we approach the simultaneous equation is, and we're just going to wait a little bit more to see if there are any comments. Are there any comments coming through in that poll? I see it was still up. Bring the one over. I like that, Caleb. I know where you're going. Anybody else? We should normally have 3 equations formulating the third from the first. 2y equals, okay, Caleb's also got some suggestions. I like it. Okay, anybody else got some suggestions? So I'm not going to go into too deep. I'm just going to say this is my guideline. I start with the happy equation, or the equation I think looks easier, and I substitute it into the harder one. And I also do that by making the easiest of the 2 variables the subject of the equation. That's what my teacher taught me at school. And I found that it really worked well. So if I look at this, I'm going to work first with the happy one. Okay. And what's more is to make x the subject of the formula, to have it all by itself. I need to take away 2y from both sides, and I get this. Okay. So now I have what's called, I've made x the subject of the formula. Now, because this is a simultaneous equation, we have to solve for both x and y. But at the moment, I have an x and a y, and I can't solve an equation if I have 2 variables. So what I do is I'm going to substitute this easy one into the hard one. So now I'm going to take the hard one, and I'm going to write it out in a way that's easy to substitute. So I'm going to say that squared plus y squared plus 3 times something times y plus y equals 0. Why do you think I've written it like this? Why do you think I've written it in this way, where I've just left big blanks here? It's almost like I'm expecting a visitor or something. Hi, Sinos people, welcome. I'm glad you could join us. Welcome, Eric. What do you guys think? Why do you think I've written it like this? And I know from having taught many students in the past, this helps students get this question right. Why am I making such a big deal about the fact that there's happy and sad equations, and then there's this I'm leaving these big open spaces to substitute? Eric, you are on the money. You are on the money. Okay. So basically, I know I want to substitute. There's actually another reason. Okay. The other reason is that when we actually multiply out, brackets act like an insurance policy, because there's this problem when we call it expanding a binomial. Okay. Students often make a mistake when they're multiplying out this thing over here, the one that has a squared in it. And so I find with the brackets, it prevents students from making a silly mistake by not collecting enough terms or not. Now, I just want to ask another question. Welcome, Zami. Glad you could join us. When you expand this thing that I'm circling in yellow, the 1 minus 2y squared, how many of you take the short, okay, I suppose I should ask this. If you put a 1 in the chat, if you expand it by simply doing the shortcut method, and you go 1 minus 4y plus 4y squared, and put a 2 in the chat, put a 2 in the chat, if you write it out like this, and then multiply it out. I want to know. So 1 is the shortcut binomial expansion. 2 is the write it out and now use FOIL or whatever it is that that your teacher has shown you. Because I will do the explanation that most people do. Okay, so I see Lisa does the quick shortcut expansion. I would recommend that once you understand how it works. It is a bit quicker. 2 is for Eric. Okay, It's fine. 2. Okay, you know what? I will do both for today because it is split. And then I'll just show you how to do the shorter one if you want to do it in future. Okay, so if we do this the long way, and it is the safer way, you would write this out like that. And then the stuff that's left, okay, so I must multiply this. So 3 minus 6y. Oh, wait. Let me make sure I haven't made a silly mistake here. Oh, watch out. Watch out. Let's use this as a teachable moment. So one of the things I almost left out was that there's this y hanging out over here. Okay, and so that can actually cause some problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave the 3 and I'm going to multiply these 2 first. So I'm going to get y minus 2y squared. So y minus 2y squared. And then I'm going to get that. So take a moment. If you see what I've done, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply out the binomial. So I'm going to get, I'll do it with the magic yellow. So 1 to there. And then it's minus 2y there. And then it's that one. So minus 2y. And then what's the last one? It's that one times that one. And it's a negative times a negative. So it's a positive. So plus 4y squared. Then for the next one, I have to just do that multiplication. Plus y equals 0. Okay, now, all I have to do now is collect the like terms. So let's start with the biggest ones. I have 4y squared minus 6y squared, which is minus 2y squared. I have minus 2y, so that's minus 4y. And then it is plus 3y, so that's minus y, plus y is 0. So let's just make sure I've got that. And then what I've got left is this 1 over here. So plus 1 equals 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this across. And then I'm going to get, okay, I suppose I should slow down a little bit, or I can ask for questions. Divide both sides by minus 2. And I get 1 over 2. And then I square root both sides. And I'm going to get y is plus minus the square root of a half. And the square root of a half, you can even check this on your calculator. Actually, let's just leave it in that form at the moment. Okay, now, I want to see a quick bit of feedback. I've taken a bit longer than I meant on this question, but can we just get a sense of, are you feeling happy about the process that I'm following? So thumbs up if you feel like you're following the process and you're learning. Thumbs down if you feel like I'm overwhelmed by choice here. I'll give you a moment or two. Once we've then done this final thing over here, and this was actually a bit of a tougher one, to get the final mark, we need to take this value and sub it back into the original equation. So we'd sub it back into this value. Okay. Coco, are you seeing any information there? Okay. So again, I would encourage you.
Not quite, not yet.
Okay. I would encourage you to practice this type of question. I think I've given you the most valuable stuff, and I don't want to spend the whole lesson on it. This idea about finding the happy or sad question, also realize, even if you don't get this whole thing right, you can get lots of partial marks from doing the process. Okay. All right. So I'm now going to move, and I'm seeing mostly thumbs up. And so I think I've done as much good work as I can in a short time there. So the second part of this lesson, we're going to do functions, and I want to do a little warm-up quiz for this. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'm going to bring up my other window. So let's see if I can find that. And then we're going to do a fun Kahoot quiz to get going. If I can just find my Zoom. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share. What should I share? I'm going to share desktop number 2. And I'll move myself off that so I can see. And then I will move the Kahoot in. And we are going to do this together as a warm-up for the second section, functions. So I think you all know how Kahoots work. And I want us to all join, and we're just going to get a little bit of a warm-up for functions. Oh, Marilyn, I see a question. So did you skip y squared? I did, Marilyn. What I said was, I did leave it out. I left out a step just because of time pressure, but you definitely square root both sides at that step when you have y squared. So you absolutely well done, Marilyn. You spotted that nicely. Okay, and welcome to Lisa. I think I've welcomed you already. If anybody is new today, this is where the real fun starts.
Mr. Is there any chance we can drop this Kahoot link in the chat there on YouTube?
It is, we can. It's just going to be www.kahoot.it, and the code is 8684226. So that would be the code that you would use. And hopefully for students, that is a little bit easier. I'm not sure I have the link right now.
No, that's okay. As long as they can get to Kahoot and get the code, I think they should be okay.
Let me actually type it in here and I'll send the light dot Kahoot. Kahoot.it, and you should get that screen. I'm definitely becoming a multi-monitor ninja. And then you put the code 8684226. Okay, welcome Caleb, Caleb EXE. I take it you like computers, Caleb. Cool. Let's have some fun, guys. Get those brains warm for functions, and then we can hit an exam question on functions. Welcome, Zimi. This music always makes me bob my head. Do, 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 do. Okay, so I'm going to start the Kahoot fairly shortly because students can still join. The code is in the chat, and I think we don't want to. Okay, I'll give it another minute or so. And please do join us. The Kahoot is a lot of fun, and some friendly competition is always good. Okay, so students will join us as we start. Let's the games begin. So Valerie and Caleb, come and join. Oh, Caleb's already here. Zimi, Eric, Sinisipo, come and join us. Oh, welcome, Lisa. I love it. I love a good full Kahoot room. There's Eric. Awesome. Oh, I see. You see, this is the nature of the slight, yeah, no, that's all good. Okay, other students will join us as we go. Let's do it. Have a piece of pen and paper. Which one do you think it is? The y, importance of the y-intercept. Okay, you got 5 seconds left. Okay, so well done, everyone. The most basic function that we deal with is a straight line, and it's in the form often y equals mx plus c. And the y-intercept we get when we make x 0. And in this case, you can see it's just going to be this, when you make x 0, the 10 knocks out and you get -8. But the question asked for the coordinates, and if you are on the y-intercept, the x coordinate would be 0. That's why it's 0 minus 8. Okay, that's a really important idea that will come up all the time in exams. Okay, let's use on top. Welcome, Valerie. Oh, we seem to have had a moment, so we're going to move on. I've kind of given away the second one, haven't I? Oh, okay. I see what's happening. Guys, I see that actually, because of the live stream, we're out of sync with the question, I think. Coco, can you verify that? Is the time
yes,
for the...
it is. It's a couple of minutes. They're only seeing the question now.
No problem. You know what, guys? Okay, that's part of the learning curve. So what I'm going to do is I know it's a bit of a bummer, but I'm going to now, we had a bit of a warm up in Kahoot. And so I'm going to close that just because that is something which I sort of underestimated. So let me go back to OneNote and we will carry on with the lesson as per we were doing. But thank you for trying that out with us. And let's go to a nice exam, or let me do a little bit of a theory lesson, and then we're going to go to this exam question. Okay, so when I teach students about functions and relationships, so there's a couple of main ones. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's the straight line, which we were talking about now, that has this form. There's the parabola, which has this form. And sometimes it has an alternative form that looks like this. Now, if you feel like, oh my gosh, death by 1,000 symbols, just ignore that for the moment. I'm just giving you a feel for it. Normally, when we graph with a on the Cartesian plane. So the relationship is shown graphically on the Cartesian plane, and the parabola often looks, actually, let me, like that, or the opposite way around. We talk about a turning point. Then we have something called an exponential graph. So there's different ways I could write it. Often it's written like that, but that's a bit of a mouthful. Basically, the important bit is that there's a number and then there's a power which is floating in the sky as an exponent. And then we have what's called the hyperbola. In fact, I'm not going to put the full standard forms, but basically what's important about the hyperbola would be, it might be something like that, where the denominator has the variable in it. And then sometimes you'll see like they had a +3 or something. Those should be the main things that you focus on when you study functions. Now, the main things you have to do is often there'll be one question where you have to draw the graphs, and there's one question where I give you a graph and you have to work out stuff about that graph. And the types of things you'll work out will be like, where are the intercepts? What are the X and Y intercepts? What are the turning points? What are the axes of symmetry? So I'd like to get a sense, or maybe we'll get this in the question, but you need to know, that's the knowledge stuff. Like, do you know that an axis of symmetry? Let me just give you a little bit of a visual dictionary quickly. So if I draw, say, a parabola, okay, and let's say the parabola looks like this. In a parabola, the axis of symmetry is actually halfway between the two x-intercepts. So those will be the two x-intercepts, and this would be the y-intercept. So if you folded this down here, that line, I know it's not perfect, cuts this graph perfectly in half. So we call that an axis of symmetry. But this type of graph doesn't have something called an asymptote, which is another technical term that you would have to learn and learn how to identify. So as you're preparing for your exam, if you feel like, first get your vocab, they call it sort of the mathematical, cognitive activation language processing. Like, you need to know what the words mean so that you can answer the exam question. So let's go to an exam question and try and see that. And I know I'm jumping around. I'm just trying to make the best use of our time. So question number 1, I want you to work out the x-intercepts for f, for that graph there. And so you should see the graph. The first question, everyone's going to do it. And then you're going to put the answers in the chat with x equals something or x equals something. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you the story. This question is about a parabola, which you can kind of see, and a straight line. So those are the two characters in the story. And they're intersecting, so they're cutting into each other. So that's probably going to come up. But step 1 is I want to find the x-intercepts. How are we doing? Oh, time's okay. May I please zoom in? I can. How about that? Does that help a little bit? Eric? Okay, I hope it does. Coco, if you could just shout if you're seeing anything that...
No, it looks pretty good on our side. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the one key thing I want to point out is that to find the x-intercepts, y needs to be 0, yes? So if you look at this particular, whenever you find the x-intercepts, you often make y 0. And so just to show you, y is this f of x thing here. So you're going to have to solve this equation, minus x squared minus x plus 6. Now, some of you will know about this thing called the formula, which is absolutely fine and you can use it. But even before you do that, I don't really like these negative coefficients. So what I'm going to do is a common trick. I'm going to move everything to the other side. I'm going to get x squared plus x minus 6 is 0. Now, you need to basically solve this equation to figure out what these two are. And I'm going to wait a bit longer for my answers to come along. So a good point from Coco is if you're getting a bad picture, if you switch your resolution to 720p, that will be very helpful because it will give you more dots on your screen. Okay, I'm still waiting for my answers. So in the chat stream, guys, don't be shy. So if you use the formula and you have this on your formula sheet, you could do this thing, which I spoke about a little bit in the previous lesson. But sometimes it can just be quicker to factorize it. So again, you can use the cross method that I used in the previous lesson. So, or sometimes you can visually just see it. So +1, and then I look at 6 and say, what are the factors of 6? Well, they're 3 and 2. Now you'll notice 1, that gives me that gives me that. I need a +1, so this is going to have to be bigger. And so when I read this off, if you don't know what I'm doing with that method, have a look at the previous video. So now I've got this. So what values? Well, I think the only way this thing is true is if x is -3 or x is 2, which makes me think, well, I almost know now that C is going to be at 2 and B is going to be at -3. Okay. Now, that was step one. I'm going to just take some of the stuff out the way. You would have got the same answer, though, if you had done it like that. Oh, look at those. I can see the answers coming in, and you guys are doing great. Now, the next thing is this axis of symmetry idea. Now, when you learn about the knowledge or the theory of parabolas, you do get taught this formula that to find the axis of symmetry, you just use minus b over 2a. Okay, so that's completely fine. If you look at the original, b is minus 1, and a is also minus 1. And we can use that to work out the axis of symmetry. And again, what would the axis of symmetry be? Just so in case visually you don't know what I mean, it's going to be going through what's called the turning point up here. It folds the graph in half. So you suspect it's going to be negative. But the other way you can do it, like I said, is that it's literally halfway between the two x cuts. So you could just go, well, what's minus 3 plus 2 divided by 2, which is going to be minus 1 over 2 or minus a half. And so the equation of the axis of symmetry is just going to be x is minus a half. Now, if you would use this formula, which is also good, you get minus 1 over 2 times minus 1. These cancel out, and you get minus a half. So all is well with the world. Okay, so traditionally students find that a bit of a strange question. I thought I'd give you an example. Next question is on for you guys. What is the range of f? So first, f is let me get rid of some of this. F is the parabola, and range talks about what y values are valid. So, what's the highest value that my graph gets to, and what's the lowest value that my graph gets to? And I would like you to put that in the chat, please. I would like you to, What I often tell my students to do as a bit of a hint is I say, look at the graph and ask yourself, if I'm talking about the range, color in, obviously I can rub out very easy, color in the area that basically points would relate to. So if I think of like a point on this graph, clearly this y value is valid. If I think of a point over here on the graph, this y value is valid. And you realize that, there's a coordinate with this y value all the way up to some point, maybe like over here. And then because of these arrows, these are all just going down. Now, one of the problems we have now is it almost feels like it goes down forever. But in maths, we have a way of dealing with that. But it definitely doesn't go up forever. And so I'd really, really like to know what the y value is here. Can anybody help me with figuring out how do I figure out that y value? What do I need to do, or what is it called? Maybe you could give me a hint in the chat. Oh, Zimi's got answers coming in already. Zimi, would you like to give us a hint as to how you got to this point up here? So this is what's called the turning point, and the turning point is always on the axis of symmetry. And so we worked that out earlier, that was minus a half. So what I'm going to suggest, and I think Zimi has written there, is that in order to get this point, this is a point on the graph f. So what we need to find is what is the value of f when x is minus a half. And how do we get that? We simply put that into our calculators. So we go minus a half squared, minus, it's a little bit of there's so many minuses, aren't there? Minus a half plus 6. And I'm basically using this formula up here. So what we're going to do is you're going to plug that into the formula. Now, I do have the answers here on the side. So for the sake of time, I'm going to be a little bit sneaky and use my maths teacher powers, but you should get the value 6.25. Oh, sorry, guys. My mouse got away from me. So by subbing in minus a half into the function, this thing over here is the value 6.25, which is the highest value that it gets to. Okay. Now, if I want to talk about the range is always y values, and the highest value it gets to is 6.25. Okay. So y can only be equal to that or less. So we write it like that. And the lowest value, well, you can't get to infinity, or negative infinity, but it can keep going down forever. So we often say it like negative infinity. Or if you use interval notation, we would write it like this: minus infinity, semicolon, 6.25 with a square bracket, where the square bracket means that you're including. Okay. Now, that is quite a tough question. It might even be a complex procedure. So possibly what I should have maybe done is, if you're feeling like, oh, man, this question is a bit hard, there's an easy question lurking just below. Okay, so this easy question, well, maybe it's not easy, but it says, write down the equation of g in the form y, or g of x equals mx plus c. Now, what that is a routine procedure. You have to find the equation of the straight line using a set of procedures. Now, if you don't know them, I would highly recommend practicing that before your exam. It's one of the most guaranteed marks to be in your exam, and it will give you a lot of return on investment. Okay. Now, what is the procedure? Well, you need 2 points. You need 2 points. Those who can do it, I would like you to do it now by yourself. But those who need a little extra help, ask yourself first, what is G? Let's go back to the beginning. Well, G is the straight line. Okay, so I know there's a lot of information on this drawing. I'll just leave the stuff that's... It looks to me like G is this thing here. And all I need to know to figure out the equation of G, I actually have 1 point already. So I'm going to write that down, and that point is the point A. Now, the other point on this question is D, and D is the y-intercept of the original graph, F. Now, because the y-intercept, basically with the parabola, if you make x 0, you get the y-intercept. So if I make in F, if I make that 0 goes away, that 0 goes away, which means this point must be the point 0, 6. So D is the second point I can use. Now I need to use those 2 points to figure out the equation of the line. Step 1 is to find the gradient of the line. How steep is it? And then once you've got that, well, all you need to do is finish. You need to find M and C, but M is already, well, you're working it out, and C, you can visually see that it's actually going to be 6. So can I ask you to put that into the chat, please? Okay, so I'm going to work out the gradient here for you. I'm going to go 6. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but 6 minus 4 on top. And it is going to be 0 minus 2 on the bottom. Yes, students always mix this up. And that's why I'm aware that I might do it live here. As long as you choose one to be, if you start with this one, you must start with this one later on. But the y's always go on top. So please make sure you've got that. And then it's 0 minus 2, which gives me 2 over 2, or plus 2, which is 1. And my intuition fits with that because it's going up and to the right. And so the equation of my graph is going to be y equals 1x. And remember from earlier, c in this thing is just the y-intercept. So it's going to be 6. Y equals 1x plus 6. Okay. Now we're running a little bit short on time, but I just want to make some comments about good exam technique. This next question about write down the average gradient between points A and D. Well, we've actually answered that already. So between A and D, or the average gradient, yeah, we found the gradient between A and D, and the average gradient was just 1. So that is, answer is going to be 1. It's only 1 mark. So you kind of know, that was an easy one. These questions are the ones you should be spending most of your time on if you are trying to improve. These ones are what are called complex procedures and problem solving. Now, I'm not saying leave them out, but what I am saying is that you'd be better spending time, let's say, on the next question, or for example, we're not going to have time today, but there's another functions question. And in this functions question, there are also questions that are from that second category, but the easy marks are sitting over here. And you would hate to waste your time and not finish by trying to do the marks that are not as easy to do. And so I just want to make you aware of, that's what I consider good exam technique. Now for today, we're running a bit short on time. So I want to move to my exit ticket and then get some feedback. But I hope that the general awareness of how to approach exams efficiently is coming through for you, because that's one of the best things I can teach you at this time of the year. Okay, now we are going to do another poll on YouTube for this second last question. So I'll make it nice and big, and this is our exit ticket. Now, vertex is another word for turning point. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about that question while I set up the poll. And I'm going to call this question 3. And you're going to have options A, B, C, and D. And I want you to try and work this out. I will give you some tips, and then I will release the poll, but it'll give us a good sense. Now, first of all, ask yourself, what type of relationship or graph is this? That's step 1, okay? So I want to suggest that this is a parabola, and I know that because is the power of 2. The power of 2 is actually what makes a parabola, which I'm hoping that you would have seen in previous theory. If not, that's something that you need to learn. Now, if the number in front is a positive, it's a happy parabola. If the number in front is a negative, it's an unhappy parabola. Now, clearly, this is going to be a happy parabola. So we're looking for that point over there, okay? But what did we do last time? We found the x-intercepts, or we used a formula that was minus b over 2a. And then once we got that, we took whatever that value was and we subbed it back. And maybe I didn't point this all out. We took the value we got and we put it back into the original to get a y value. And together that would be the turning point. So I'd love to see if you guys can do that. And I'm going to wait for the answers to come through from the poll. Oh, I love it. The answers are coming through thick and fast. The magic of the internet. Okay, so let's do the first one. Equals, so minus b minus 8 over 2 times 2, which is minus 8 over 4, which is minus 2. And that seems like I'm in the right ballpark. Now I need to find a value for y, or what the fancy way of saying is the f of minus 2. Okay, which is just what is the value of this function f when x is minus 2. I know that this line is on the axis of symmetry. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to take an insurance policy and I'm going to put an empty space where the subbing is going in. Okay, there's my insurance policy. And the reason I do that is because of the silly mistakes that happen when we square things. And I know that happens. So we get minus 2 squared is 4. So 2 times 4 minus 16 minus 12. So we get 8. I mean, obviously your calculator is a lot quicker at this, but minus 8 minus 12, I get minus 20, which then means the turning point would be minus 2 minus 20. And that, is there an answer like that? Hopefully there is. Minus 2 minus 20. Oh, they're asking us about local minimums and local maximums. Now, can you see that this thing is at a minimum point? So A should be the right answer. I can see why some of you might have chosen B, but a maximum will look like this because it's the highest point. So the answer should be A, and fantastic. Many of you got that. And even if you didn't, I hope that you understood the thinking. Let's do one more before we finish off. Actually, you know what? Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And then we'll do a little feedback survey. There's no load shedding tonight, so hopefully we won't lose anyone. And then we'll finish for the day. Okay. Now, I don't want you to use a graphical method for this. I want you to use the method I showed you earlier in the lesson. This is called a system of equations. And then whilst you do that, I'm going to have another poll, and you're going to input your answer for me. Oh, I've got to end the other poll. Sorry. Okay. I think I've made you too tired. Oh no, here we go. So you're working on that. And while you're working on that, I am multitasking. And I'm going to send you a little poll. So using the logic from earlier on, remember which one is happier, which one looks easier? I think that this one looks easier to me, the top one, because it's a straight line equation, whereas that looks a little bit harder. So I'm going to sub, let me do my insurance. I'm going to say this. And I'm going to sub the first equation into this one here, minus 2x minus 1. Wait, am I being silly here? Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Sorry. I'm subbing the wrong thing in here. These both have y's. So we can just say minus 2x minus 1 equals x squared. So I'm still subbing the happy one into the unhappy one. It's just that I need to sub it in for y. And once I sub in, we eliminate one of the variables. And that's the whole point of this. So you get, if I then move these across and I use the opposite operation to do that, I get x squared plus 2x plus 1. And then I'm going to have to solve that. Now I'm going to use this method, but you can use the formula as well. Plus 1 plus 1. So we basically get x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals 0. And if that's the case, then the answer for x must be x is minus 1. Okay, now x is minus 1. I suppose because of the power of deduction, only one of the answers has a minus 1 as its thing. So maybe you guys have already got it. But if you want to find the y value, all I do is I sub it back into one of the two originals. And here it might be easier to use this one because it's just squaring it. So what's minus 1 squared? It's just 1. And now together, my point should be minus 1, 1. And so the answer should be B. Okay, guys. I know that we are now getting close to the end of our lesson. I want to end with an ask for feedback. So the one bit of feedback is I would love for you to give me some emojis in the chat. How are you feeling about the lesson? Was it helpful? I mean, just give me a summary. Do you feel like you got something from today for your exam? Or was it like, kind of helpful, but not really? And then I want to ask you to fill in a feedback form, because we've been doing stuff differently this week. And I'd like to get a sense of how it felt for you. I don't know, Coco, have I sent you maybe if we could drop that into the chat?
Yeah, I'm going to do that now.
That would be awesome. And so if students could initially just give us a bit of emotion, and then if you could fill in this form, we'd be super grateful, because it will help us give you the best learning experience possible. And that's really what we want to do, right? We want to make these lessons as useful. You're showing diligence by being here, and we want to help you. Okay. In fact, I might beat you to it. I think I've just put the link to the Google form. I'm so glad, Eric. I'm so glad. I do enjoy helping students. And I do think that if we communicate with each other clearly, then I think we can definitely make some progress here. And math doesn't have to always be scary, I promise. Okay. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I am going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share with you the thing you should be seeing if you follow the link. Make sure I haven't got too clever here. I've lost my YouTube. Well, I think there's just too many tabs open here, guys. What can you see on the screen, Coco? Can you see me looking confused?
I see you looking a bit bewildered. Yes.
Too many tabs, man. It's too many tabs. But I think students will get to the feedback form. And so I'm going to hand back to you, because I think I need a break. And goodbye, students. I hope that you have a great afternoon further. And thank you for being part of today. Okay. And over to you.
Thank you, Mr. F. Yeah, I've got my camera off because I'm about to reload shit, and I don't know what that would do to the live stream. So we don't really have anything for the grade 11s other than them to practice all of the stuff. I'm going to remind you guys again that on the Watobi app, we do have all the grade 11 paper 1 and paper 2 exam papers, so previous exam papers. So if you need to go look through those, please just jump onto the library on the Watobi app and you get to all of those. In fact, everything that Mr. F is going through. Yeah.
So that's my recommendation was you want to go now and practice question 1, which was general algebra, and functions, question 5 and 6. Go to an old exam, see if you can use the strategies that I spoke about today, and you practice them, and you will find that it will stay in your brain much, much better. Okay, so that's my homework for you, is to go and do that from the Watobi app with the old exam papers, and specifically try and do another variety of what you've done now to consolidate it. Okay, I think that's it for us. Coco, anything more from you, and then we can bring this to a close?
No, that's it. I think we can release them back into the wild now.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye. And to everyone on YouTube, I hope that you enjoyed that. And yeah. Cool.
Sorry, Mr. F, I might just need you to end the live stream for me, because you are.
Okay, I'm going to end that, because I'm going to lose you now, because I'm ending the meeting for all, or am I supposed to end the live stream?
If you click on more.